Welcome back, fellow pawners, owners and dragon nesters, to another series, or rather to another episode of my Paladin guide. Okay, Momojin here, and I'm super stoked to bring you the instructions that I'm about to give you on how to do advanced skilling. Yes, advanced skilling in the two first basic roles as a defensive paladin, which is provoking and blocking. In the title there you say chain blocking is because I'm about to teach you how to combo up blocks. Yes, it doesn't really make sense, right? I'm like, what the hell? I thought you can only combo up normal attacks and all that. You only can combo up normal attacks, but well, that's not true. You can actually chain up blocks to have like an almost 99.99% guarantee of survivability. Yes, that's how strong you are as a defensive paladin. That's how easy you should be able to sustain yourself. So let's head right into the training room, guys. Okay, first off, I want to cover a summary of my essential skills related to aggro attracting and damage boosting. Not damage boosting, and of course absolute blocking. Okay, right here we have the first one, Provoke. Okay, Provoke now is on level 6. Is augmented by my heraldry. I have a premium grade heraldry for it. Reduce the cooldown by 50%. Increase the debuff duration by 50%. So now my debuff duration on my Provoke is 20.25 seconds. So it's about 20 seconds, and the cooldown is 15 seconds. Yeah, cools down pretty dang fast. And while I'm doing this summary, I'm going to give you guys some knowledge about your paladin skills, of course. And yeah, and there is actually no such thing as overkilling here, because 20 seconds of debuff duration compared to a cooldown of 15 seconds is like, you guys must be thinking like, why not just let the duration last for about 15 seconds, the Provoke duration last for 15 seconds, and you just renew it every 15 seconds. No, it doesn't work that way, because apparently when the more I add Provoke, right, it actually gets more and more aggro attention from the monsters. As you can see, I mean, I can't demonstrate here, but it actually does, based on my experience. And with the lengthened time, right, of 20 seconds, the provoking duration of 20 seconds, the monster typically doesn't, you don't get the attention of the monster for the whole 20 seconds. In fact, like half of the time, it will reach probably like at the end, by the end of 15 seconds, which is just nice, the cooldown of my Provoke ends, the monster starts getting distracted by my other party members. That is the reason why I actually went ahead and overkilled this skill with a heraldry. Okay, moving on, we have Block. Yes, Block. It's level 9. It's augmented by an accessory I have. I believe it's an necklace. Yes, a necklace and a heraldry. Okay, so right now my block has a duration of 15 seconds and can block up to 10 attacks, and a cooldown of 40.5 seconds. So about 40 seconds, you can assume. This is, to me, I'm gonna cover, but this to me is the best blocking skill, just because it allows guaranteed auto blocking. It doesn't matter what status you're in, whether you're smashed on the floor and continue receiving damage or whatever, you will still auto block. Yes, it's that good. And it allows for mobility, you see. The only problem we have is you have a finite number of blocks. That's the reason why I went ahead to get a accessory to boost it one more level. And since it's auto, you can be sure that you don't really want to be casting stuff like this long casting skills, because most highly likely you're gonna get cancelled halfway. Yeah, it's pretty dang. You gotta take the risk when you're on block, especially when you wanna cast skills during block. And yeah, so moving on, we have Stance of Faith. Funny thing is, I don't know whether you guys noticed, but I keep saying it. I keep calling this skill Faith of Stance. Faith of Stance. It's not Faith of Stance. It's a Stance of Faith. Okay, guys. Moving on to Stance of Faith. I have this augmented by a premium grade heraldry, and the buff duration is on 25 seconds. the cooldown is 60 seconds. This particular skill is more of the is like a block, but a more specific kind of block where you sacrifice mobility to gain absolute infinite number of absolute blocks. Okay, for as long as the duration, of course, and the duration for me is 25 seconds. And as long as you're in the stance, also you gotta remember that that's the drawback. Actually, it's one of the good things. At the same time, it's a drawback, because when you get pressed down, right, by by skills like I believe Manticore's that gravity ball, right? You can't block it just because while you're on the floor, you're constantly getting damage. Whereas when you have block on, you actually can block all the damages. Funny how that works. Yeah. So and the thing about this is you can actually get out of the stance to start casting your spells. Like if you know you don't want your spells to actually get cancelled by an auto block, you would actually just go ahead get out of the stance just by moving around. And then you can just cast your skills back. And the problem, another drawback is after casting, right, you have an 8-second silence where you can't activate any other spells. So usually is advised to provoke first, then activating your Stance of Faith. Okay, moving on, we have Iron Will. This is augmented by a premium grade heraldry for my character. The buff duration has increased to 15 seconds, as you can see on the top left there. Okay, and the cooldown is 60 seconds. This what happens here is more like a more specific block. Like I said, you sacrifice absolute blocking, because you only get reduced, but it's greatly reduced definitely, like 77%. That's a lot. Okay, for what happens here, you sacrifice absolute blocking for maximum mobility. In other words, while you're moving around, you can get to move. You don't have to get worried about getting worried about your castings, your long duration casts like this, the important casts like heal, getting cancelled off. Of course, unless you get a very strong, impactful skill by a boss or something like that, along those lines. And it's not complete negation, that's for sure. But one thing about this, one of the plus points is that it actually allows you to proc your armor prefixes like HP, Iron Wall, mana prefixes. In fact, with HP prefix armors like I have right now, yes, I know, like, since when you got that, Momojin? Yeah, I just got it this week actually. It's Manticore cuffs and Manticore shoes, both with HP prefixes. What happens is, while I'm on Iron Will and I get hit, most of the time it's a complete negation, just because that heal that I get from the HP prefixes basically negate the already reduced damage that I'm getting from after filtering through. And last but not least, we have Divine Avatar. Do 20 seconds duration. I don't have any heraldries to boost this. I believe there's a 20-second buff duration on this, so in other words you get probably about 24 seconds, if my math is right. And the cooldown is 125 seconds, yes, of course, because it's an ultimate. Okay, here grants you invincibility, enough said, but of course the drawback is freaking long ass cooldown. But of course it's not just the invincibility you're granted, you have boosted stats, boosted HP and stuff like that. Okay, so there you have it. I think that's about a basic, I know it's not basic, but it's a very thorough thorough overview of my skills once again, and of course a brief knowledge about each one of them. Okay, now let us move on to some tips that I'm gonna give you while using the skills. I'm like, yeah, you guys must be asking, what? You mean you need brains to move? Yeah, there's actually some additional tips you can actually get, because like I said, you're here to fulfill a role as a defensive paladin, and you're not here to just sustain yourself. You're supposed to sustain your party members, which are the healths are probably here if you're in a party and all, so on and so forth. As for provoke, pretty dang simple, right? You see the enemy looking at your party members, you want to go ahead and provoke them. And the thing about provoke is it has humongous, do not underestimate the kind because apparently it's a cone shape, but the cone shape in front of you is freaking wide. It's like from here, right, when I provoke, right, people from here all the way at this angle and at this angle can actually get provoked, and I'm like, I can't even see them, like, oh, where the hell are they coming from? Stuff like that. And of course you want to provoke, before you want to provoke, you would probably want to stand in a direction where your teammates aren't in that same direction as you. Because what you want is you want the backs of the monsters or the bosses facing your teammates most of the time, that's for sure. And as for block, like I said, the tip here with comparing with all these 4 skills, right? Block, Stance of Faith, Iron Will, and Divine Avatar. My block has the lowest cooldown being 40 seconds basically. So what happens here is whenever you, like right now I'm on a defensive skill set, I have block, I have Stance of Faith, I have Iron Will, and I have my Divine Avatar. What happens here is, well, it goes, I also arrange it in such a way that lowest cooldown, the highest cooldown. So what happens here is, you would want to activate block most of the time whenever it's available first, just because it has the lowest cooldown. So while this is on cooldown, you go yada yada, you go do your thing, you go be fighting, you go be shield charging, you go be armor breaking, and you guys like asking, what the hell are you doing? You're messing up the grammar. Yes. And after the block is over, you can go ahead and choose, let's say I'm going into Iron Will, and I provoked, and I continue whacking, do my thing. Oh, party member needs help, went ahead, go heal them, go back to my continue arm breaking and stuff like. And when it's done, okay, you see right after my Iron Will is done, right, you can see my block is almost done cooling down. Yeah, that is how fast the thing cools down. So like I said, the tip here is when you're using block, when you're choosing between all skills, right, whenever block is available, use it as your absolute blocking skill first, then only moving on to the rest. Just because it provides you with both mobility, great mobility, and great defense. And now, of course, moving on to Stance of Faith. I typically on Stance of Faith with my Divine Punishment. Yeah, my Divine Punishment at level 3 is max. Damage reflected is 30%. I usually go Provoke on my Divine Punishment and I go on Stance of Faith. I straight away go press spacebar into this position. Okay. Usually I'll do this when I know I'm about to get an onslaught of attacks. But if I know I'm not, you would most probably want to move around, look at the one, and while you're in this mode, be active. Look around. The thing about this skill is you don't have to face the enemy to be blocking, so you can actually be your backside, your ass can be facing the enemy, and you can actually still block. And the great thing about this is you can actually look around, which is very important, because sometimes you just want to know where the hell your teammates are, and because you need to heal them or whatever, you need them not being behind you, because you don't want them to be getting collateral damage. And I think I'm using that word right, but getting splash damage, okay, and stuff like that. And while you're in this mode, like I said, sometimes it's worth taking the risk to move, even though you can go spacebar and go into absolute blocking mode. Okay, sometimes it's worth moving, getting your butt away. Like sometimes you just have to, like I said, you see you have a 8-second silence there. Okay, now it's gone. Okay, move around, and then for better position. Yes, for your teammates, of course. This is purely for your teammates. Okay, you need to sustain them. Okay, moving on to Iron Will. I mean, how simple. I don't really have tips on this. As for Divine Avatar, the tip here is this. I don't really use it as a damage booster, just because I said as a defensive paladin, I don't really deal a lot of direct damage. Yeah, I usually use it as invincibility, for purely its invincibility. Of course, in the next video I'll cover, I'll actually use it for another purpose, but one of the things I want to use for is actually invincibility, because when you're in this mode, believe me, you're a beast. Okay, you remember sometimes you can actually, when you're casting here, right, you can actually get cancelled halfway, and it's a dang annoying thing, especially when I need to heal my teammates in a critical time. Okay, that's when you activate your Divine Avatar, you get into invincibility, and you can go ahead and heal them without any qualms or any risk of getting your skills cancelled. Yeah, in fact, it's so helpful, you can actually go ahead and go activate first aid before you activate heal. In fact, for a boosted heal. And yeah, usually it's for critical situations, and it's not for critical for me, but rather for my teammates. And of course, the typical thing you want to do as a defensive paladin, okay, is you basically want to provoke, get aggro, and then you go block. Okay, and of course you don't want to be in, like I said, I always say before, you don't want to be standing with your teammates at the same direction as the boss is facing. Okay, you would want to move yourself. If they're not moving, you move. Okay, okay, especially when you're playing with publics and all that, public teammates, party members and all that. Okay, that's the most basic thing. You provoke and you block, and you provoke and then you block. Okay, here comes the interesting part. Okay, you know, in the title of my video I said about something about chain blocking. Yeah, chaining your blocks. This is actually more for yourself. It's actually a basic combo for purely for yourself, just because it doesn't really sometimes when you're in a team, right, party, you have to look at the situation, and sometimes just purely doing this, it helps for you more, but it doesn't really help your teammates that much. I'll cover that. I'll give you examples in the future, but for now, that's what I'm trying to tell you. Okay, so but if you still insist on getting like maximum survivability out of your skills, right, the combo for chain blocking is this. Wait, let me have my iron wheel cool down first. Okay, first things off, of course you do a provoke before you activate any of your absolute blocking skills. You start off with Divine Avatar. Yeah, big hoo-ha. I mean, who the it's like, of course you want to do this because what happens here is this has the longest cooldown, and while the reason being for this to be activated first is while after this ends, when you're activating the other blocking skills, you can actually wait for this to cool down. Okay, then once that's done, go ahead into block. Yes, after Divine Avatar, block. And then you do your thing, you armor break, you shield charge, you armor break, you reposition yourself. Okay, blah blah blah. The next one you go into is Stance of Faith with a Divine Avatar touch into it. I'll go ahead and just stand still. 8 seconds of silence, of course. Blah blah blah. Oh, I need to reposition myself. Okay, go ahead. Blah blah blah. I'm like shadow battling because this is basically training room, but I don't really have dummy units to train again. So yeah, I'm just doing this. Okay, third one is Stance of Faith, which is wearing off in 3, 2, 1. Okay, now you move on into block again. Like I said earlier, it is the fastest cooling down block skill. That's why I said it's so dang good. Not because it doesn't just give you a guaranteed auto block, but it also gives you mobility and fastest cooldown. Then you move on to Iron Will. Yes, after that block you go into Iron Will. Come on, Iron Will. Yes, okay, round Iron Will, I can maximum. Come on, heal and do all your basic things. Okay, now it's on cooldown. Go into Faith of Stance. Look at this. Just nice. It cools down. Yes, I know. It's like, woo! Yeah, this is for maximum survivability. Purely defensive paladin. It works great, especially like you most likely should hardly die anymore. Oh yeah, one more tip. When you're in this mode, right, spam the freaking space bar. It helps a lot, especially when you're fighting against light base. And then after this is done, hey, look at this! Avatar is done! Yes, you rinse, you basically cycle through. So I'll repeat once again. Of course you put Provoke in between. You basically start off with Avatar, move on to block, Stance of Faith, and then block again, moving to Iron Will, and then Stance of Faith. After that is done, you basically can do this again. Yeah, rinse and repeat. Woo! Awesome, isn't it? Yeah. And of course, like I said, that is the most basic chain blocking. I don't really recommend you doing that sometimes, just because yes, it's very situational. Block is more like block offers you both mobility and absolute blocking, which is great because it's more suited for a lot of situations. That's for sure. But once block ends, right, you are actually, like I said earlier, Stance of Faith basically sacrifices all mobility for absolute infinite number of blocks, whereas you would either want to go for You want to sacrifice mobility, or you want to sacrifice absolute blocking. Okay? The tip here is this, of course. You have to look at whether you need to be more defensive, or you need more mobility. If you need more mobility, of course you will go into Iron Will. If you need more defense, of course you will go into naturally Stance of Faith. And of course, the more complex blocking, chain blocking, right? Basically, you more complex block comboing, or whatever you want to call it, right? Is basically understanding. This is what you do. You would always go first block. Okay, I didn't start off with Avatar. I should probably do that. No, I don't do that because there are reasons for me. I don't start off with Avatar. This is mainly for you guys to use actually. And right after my block is done, I would actually look and see whether I need more mobility or more defense. If I need the more defense, I will go into my Stance of Faith. And then after my Stance of Faith is done, I will actually after that, most likely my block is done. That's how fast my block cooldown is. I'll go for block, and then after that I reassess the situation, and so on and so forth. So there you have it. This is my guide on advanced skilling on the area of provoking and chain block and blocking, of course, not chain blocking. Chain blocking is that little neat tip that I give you, and that is the reason why I augment all my essential defensive paladin skills so much, because you can actually pull crap like this off. Yeah, it's most probably banned in PvP, so but who cares? I'm a PvE. Teammates for the win. Team player for the win. So there you have it, guys. Thank you for joining me in the training room, courtesy of the Nameless Tyrant, of course. I think this is actually quite a long video. Nonetheless, please rate, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Ciao, guys.